Good morning, sun. Good morning, life. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and in love. Good morning, sun.
Buenos dias, Senor Ted Johnston. Okay, let's do a quick audio check here. Let the stream catch up with reality. Buen provecho. And are we live? I think we are. Okay. Our audio is good. Good morning, and I have the light coming in from the window. You see, I got spots this morning. That happens in spring and summer. And how's it going? Friday, March 28th, episode 160 of this weekly circus. Okay, so ask questions. What are you up to? What have you been working on? What fun Business Central antics have you experienced over the last week? I had a week, so I decided to treat myself to some Rick and Morty, rewatching Rick and Morty from the beginning to see if I can learn to appreciate it. It's kind of a wacky, random cartoon, if you can call it that. Adult level cartoon for sure. And I guess this is a reminder to be polite to our robot and canine overlords as AI progresses. So, with that, el fin de semana, the weekend, last weekend was actually fantastic. It was very nice. It was a beautiful weekend. I headed over to the great Costco of purveyor of meat, picked up some baby back ribs, and I smoked them as a gift to our neighbor and my daughter's schoolmate because they help take the kids and pick them up from school when I am traveling to El Salvador. So, hence my El Salvador shirt. Got the full theme going on there. And the baby back ribs turned out quite nicely, I must say. And the family really enjoyed them, as did the neighbors. That was a pretty epic meal. So then on Sunday, my older daughter said, I want to go to the beach. So we hopped in her convertible, put the top down, and headed to Huntington Beach, and that is Pacific Coast Highway. It was a gorgeous Sunday, and strolled around at Huntington Beach. I forget the name of the place, the little shopping mall there. And those are my lovely daughters. We went out to the beach, hung out, and then we had dinner at a place called Simsi's, a restaurant right on PCH there, and that was our beautiful sunset. It was gorgeous. It was an amazing Sunday. Really, really enjoyed it. And weekly projects, proyectos semanales. Enjoying life, a continuing theme, as I mentioned previously. And digging into Power BI training. We will soon have one or more Power BI experts on the ERP Center of Excellence team, I should say. Small PTE delivery. I don't even remember what that was at the moment. Maybe I'll mention it. EFT ACH file format. That's been temporarily put on hold, but that's been some learning there. And BC Admin API documentation, because it's like 37 steps to get that set up, and it's quite a hassle. It's kind of unfortunate. It's a great useful utility, but it is a hassle to use properly, I will say. And while doing some bank recs, I looked at all the subscriptions and I was like, I pretty much don't need Zoom anymore. I have painfully transitioned over to Teams and weaned myself off of Zoom. So I canceled that subscription for roughly 160 a year. And then I noticed my Pact subscription coming up. That is increasing to $200 a year. It's gone up, I think, like 100% over the last 4 years. So canceled that. No longer need that. And then training, we canceled a training class as of March. That was online training for $65 a month. So saving a good amount of money. I'm also looking into my web hosting, which is $30 some a month. Just going to transition that to Namecheap, a static site, and save $37 or something like that a month. Like, who cares? Not worth it. So, yeah, significant savings if you can cull the subscriptions. Kind of like it's the technological version of a gym membership these days, right? Okay, so that was the week. On Monday, I made my daughter a fancy schmancy croissant breakfast sandwich for her to take to school. So we had a toasted croissant and an egg and spinach and some sriracha mayo. So kind of fancy. I forgot cheese. Lo siento. My apologies. And I picked up my wife. My wife came back from a birthday weekend cruise from Florida. Oh, I jumped a bit. I did make progress on my QuickBook bank recs, so that was miraculous. And then Monday night, I headed to LAX to pick up my wife, and oh my gosh, it was the worst traffic I have ever seen there. It was incredible. It was gridlock, like half a mile of cars, just parking lot. I don't know what was going on, but man, Monday night, horrible night to be at LAX. It was crazy. People honking. It was like a scene from a movie in New York or New Jersey, you know, kind of the stereotypical scene with the taxi drivers stuck in traffic. Literally, people got out of the Ubers and the guy was walking. In this photo here, the guy was just walking up to the terminal. He just gave up. So it was pretty crazy. And interesting. I haven't had this in many, many years. As you know, I buy eBay laptops, bought a ThinkPad for my daughter to replace her old one, $299. And kind of obvious when you go to boot it up, you get this error message, multiple beeps. And thankfully, I have a pile of ThinkPads hanging out. So I pulled the CMOS battery out of one, popped it into the new one, and it solved the problem. So 2 new CMOS batteries on order, one to replace the battery for her old one to put it in the new one, just so we take care of it. $12 each, no big deal. And that is why I like the ThinkPad. I just know it so well. Take it apart, 5 minutes, you tear it open, CMOS battery, popped it in, parts galore on eBay, just super easy to deal with. I could have returned it, but it's like not even worth the hassle for a battery. I just don't care. It was $299, great deal. So yeah, so that is the CMOS battery right there. If you've ever opened up the ThinkPad, they're pretty much all the same. I think they may have slightly different connectors on certain models, but the yellow battery is very recognizable among the ThinkPad line. So yeah, that was super easy. On-prem woes. Holy cow. I feel for people on-prem. They're just like, yeah, they're up the creek without a paddle. I just don't know how they function. Even with consultants, the consultants, I'm sorry, they are useless. Steve, why does your app keep giving us errors? And I'm like, because it can't connect to your SQL server at 3 a.m. when you're doing maintenance or shutting the thing down. Well, why can't your app connect at 3 a.m. when the SQL service is stopped? These are literally the questions I get from IT and consultants. Consultants charging over $200 an hour do not understand how SQL Server works. Like, they have no concept that when you shut down the SQL Server, client applications that rely on SQL connections do not work. Why can't your app connect to SQL? We can ping it. We set up a script to constantly ping the SQL server, and we could constantly ping it. They have no idea what a ping is, and that a ping is separate from a SQL connection. I feel for any customers trying to deal with on-prem right now. They are in trouble. And this is a support ticket I get. Need help understanding. That's the subject line. You can just guess how the rest of the request went. Like, it's kind of painful. And on the one hand, I feel for the customers. On the other hand, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the consultants charging money for this, or the IT people who just don't understand how the systems work that they're responsible for maintaining. I don't expect them to understand, debits and credits and, journal tables or history tables or work tables or eConnect integrations or, necessarily even API integrations with BC. But come on, folks, step it up. I'm no genius, but really. So I had to send this to the customer like 5 seconds, web search, found this website, check it out. Maybe you might want to learn about it. And I'm like, let me know if that helps you diagnose your internal infrastructure system issue that has nothing to do with my application. And I'm finding I'm providing more and more core IT ERP support as an ISV because these customers are just neglected and they're just randomly roaming around, bumping into walls, trying to get help. So, yeah, my head's covering it up. It's just not. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's the decline of IT or what, but yeah, facepalm, you're doing it wrong. So it's kind of a strange situation. On-prem is going to have rough days coming up. Okay, moving on. Tuesday, Martes. David at ERP Center of Excellence was working on an ACH fixed width file. Pretty standard. And in order to do this properly, I believe you need decent tools. And so I personally use UltraEdit as my text editor. There is unequivocally, indisputably, zero competitors to UltraEdit. And I don't care what suggestion you offer. I've already looked. I have worked with a text file with over 7 billion lines. UltraEdit opens it, edits it, scrolls through it fine. I even helped UltraEdit find a bug that they had with line numbering when you get over 2 billion lines in the file because it was exceeding the variable length of their line numbers. And they fixed that. So I was able to deal with my 7 billion line text file, multiple gigabytes. There is zero equivalent on the market. The downside is that UltraEdit costs about $150 for a perpetual license, or it's, I don't know what it is, $15, $12, $15, $20 a month for the subscription. Tons of features right out of the box. You don't need to do anything. One of which, related to fixed width files, is the ruler right at the top. It's just always there, and you don't have to do anything for it. Well, I don't want to have to pay $150 per consultant's or per consultant. That gets really expensive just to edit ACH files. And so I finally figured out how to get the ruler displayed in Notepad++. And while I love Notepad++, it's a bit of a duct tape and twine hack for a lot of little stuff. It has some great features, and when you want a ruler, it's like kind of sketchy to get this going on. So you do need to install a plugin. The plugin is moderately sketchy. I don't even know if it's maintained, but it does work. But you need to know about this very obscure setting called Direct Write. So in Notepad++, you need to go into Preferences, Miscellaneous, and Disable Direct Write. And depending on the version of Notepad++ you have, whether it's the stable release version or the latest version, this option will look different. In the newer version, it is a drop-down. and you have to basically choose something other than the direct write option. But once you do, you can then install the Column Tools plugin and enable the ruler feature. And it does appear to work. It's a little sketchy in terms of how it draws and refreshes the screen, but it does work. And that is a much more economical compromise option than purchasing Ultra Edit. But if you are serious, if you are hardcore IT, consulting, whatever, Ultra Edit is the way to go, hands down by far. I have found one or two features in Notepad++ that are a little better, that I like more than Ultra Edit, but overall, I've been using Ultra Edit for well over, I think, 20 years now, so hardcore. And touch grass. So Tuesday, went out for a walk, beautiful day, and enjoyed some sun and some green grass. Okay. BC Admin API. I continue to work with Ronald on integrating BC Admin API with Power Automate, calling it, and we thought we were done. He prepared the documentation. I edited it. We have this 11-page document on setting up the Azure AD application, getting Power Automate set up, getting the flow set up, getting everything configured. And here's one of the flows. And we're like, yes, we're ready to deliver this to a customer, get it set up to refresh a prod copy. And then I remembered, we forgot to set up Azure Key Vault. We tried, but we ran into a problem. So we went back, revisited Azure Key Vault, which I'll talk about later. And oh my gosh, it's not Azure Key Vault's fault, I don't believe. It is something funky in Power Automate. Oh, come on, Microsoft. Your authentication is an absolute nightmare. I don't know what it is. And Wednesday, miércoles. En serio, Microsoft? Wednesday morning, I sat down and, good morning, Brad. Cheers. Have a sip. Wednesday morning, I was greeted with this spam. And I know exactly where it came from because I use Simple Login for email aliases. So I know that this email, this spam from Microsoft came from the fake account that I set up just to get Windows 11 installed. Windows 11 now, at least with the OEM Windows 11 that I get on the ThinkPads, forces you, absolutely forces you to set up an account now. I know there are supposed hacks to bypass that, but you need to have a separate Windows USB install, and I'm like, whatever. So I have fake accounts using Simple Login aliases. I'm like, whatever. They are spamming customers that you could win $1 million. Now, if this doesn't look like the worst scam email on the planet, like seriously, Microsoft, our largest sweepstakes yet, $2 million in total prizes, grand prize of $1 million. Like, what an absolute scam. Horrible, horrible. Like, someone should be fired for this. Every single customer who installs Windows 11 and gets a new laptop is getting spammed with this garbage. And the great timing is that at the exact same time I'm reading this email, this spam email from Microsoft, my endpoint protection fires off saying, wait a minute, Teams Personal is trying to run a suspicious PowerShell script in the background, which it is just constantly doing. Teams is just an absolute security nightmare, dumpster fire for security. And it was just the perfect image to capture of Microsoft doing Microsoft things. Unbelievable. So, like, I don't know where Microsoft is going. Obviously, my career is kind of tied to them. It does concern me, and they really need to fire some people. Like, what were they thinking? On to a potentially better topic when and a day later I got this, Microsoft Rewards. They're just spamming me with all this consumer garbage because of Windows 11. And yes, I can tell exactly where it's coming from because of my aliases. Oh, Azure Key Vault and Power Automate. I mentioned that it was driving us nuts. Yes. So this is what happens if you try to access Azure Key Vault from Power Automate. You get this error message. Operation failed because the client does not have permission to perform the operation on Key Vault. Please check your permissions in the Key Vault access policies. I did. We did 3 times over 2 days. It doesn't work. Here's the secret. If you wait 5 days, it suddenly works. 5 days. So we're currently in the window of 48 hours. It's still not working because we're testing it in multiple environments, multiple flows. But we happen to test another one after 5-6 days, and it worked. So somewhere between 48 hours and 5 days, these permissions start to work in Power Automate with a Key Vault. Try explaining that to your customer. Okay, go ahead, set it up, and then come back in a week, and then it might start working. So now we're in the position of every morning, every afternoon. Is it working yet? No. Okay, let's try tomorrow. So I can't deploy a flow with a hard-coded API key. Like, that's just pure negligence. People do it. I'm not going to do it. So I'm using Azure Key Vault, trying to do it by the book, and we are discovering the most absurd things going on. So my only guess is that Power Automate and whatever you call the Power App infrastructure is somehow using a replicated version of the authentication for Azure Key Vault, whatever that means. And it's taking days to replicate or connect or refresh or whatever. Absolute. It's the weirdest thing. And if you don't believe me, I totally understand. Trust me, we've tried it on 3 tenants, multiple accounts, multiple permissions, Key Vault owner, Key Vault administrator. It's not a permission issue. It is some type of latency between the sync to Power Automate. Absolutely craziest thing I've ever seen. And on the on-prem, just dumpster fire, consulting support. When app logging saves the day, a consulting firm blamed my ISV application, this is on the dynamic GP side, blamed my ISV application for causing posting to fail and deleting data in the customer system. They somehow came to that conclusion without any evidence, without properly diagnosing this, blamed our application, told the customer that they should stop using our software, and said that their operations are grinding to a halt because of our software. Freaking out, client demands an explanation, and I'm like, this makes no sense. 1, our application has 0 ability to delete any data. 2, our application just says, ERP system, will you please post this batch? That's all it does, and then it just monitors the result. Can the posting fail? Sure. Can it fail catastrophically? Maybe, but that's the posting routine of the ERP system. It's not our application. So how did these guys come up with the conclusion that we are responsible for this and blame us for this? Well, I start looking at our logs. I first start looking at the data. I'm like, this makes no sense. And they have shoved data into the tables directly to cover up. So we really have no evidence. We can't really detailed analyze what happened here because they have inserted records into the database tables directly. So we've lost exactly what's going on here. It's like, they just threw a bunch of trash at a crime scene. So I go back to our detailed diagnostic file is what we call it. And I start looking at this. I'm like, wait, there's an error there for this batch. I didn't notice that before. And I look closer, I'm like, missing batch in table. It tried to post the batch, but the batch wasn't even there by the time it got around to it. And so our detailed diagnostic file, an extensive detailed logging that my partner developed in the application, provided me with multiple corroborating clues to indicate that our application saw this batch at 6:46 a.m., but by the time it tried to post it at 7:15 or whatever, half an hour later, it was no longer in the system. someone or something else posted it. We have clear evidence of that. So our application had nothing to do with the problem that they are encountering. So this is yet another example. Many, many times I've encountered this where a customer is blamed, just like, your application caused this problem. No. Here is where your employee misapplied 30 transactions and just randomly shotgun applied transactions. We didn't do that. Oh, do they apologize? Never. Do they accuse us eagerly? Absolutely. And it's like guilty until proven innocent. The logs save the day. If you're doing critical application development, you must absolutely have just meticulous application logging. And along those lines, I was so fed up after that, discovering that and realizing that the app saved the day. I am willing to sponsor, like fund out of my personal funds, an application logging award. So I want stories of, if the community is interested, I want stories of how your detailed, custom, innovative application logs have saved the day. And I want innovative application logging designs and solutions as well, not just problems it solved and accusations that were refuted. If you did something really clever with your application logs to detect a certain situation, problem, scenario, awesome. And hey, saying that, we use App Insights in Business Central. Nope, that doesn't cut it. You're going to have to take it to the next level, step it up. I'm willing to drop $1,000 on this. Like, you want a $500 first place, $250 second place, a couple third and fourth place, whatever, $1,000, no problem. This has saved me so much time, allowed me to defend against the craziest accusations like this one where we're not even responsible for the posting. So if anyone's interested, I don't have the time to do this, but if we want to form a committee of 3 or 4 people, technical dev, whatever, ERP application logging, I'll sponsor it and we'll make up a trophy. I don't care. Ready to have some fun because this is an essential part of application development. If you do not have extensive detailed logging for a complex application, you're just setting yourself up for some serious pain. Okay, with that rant, cheers. Upcoming events, próximos eventos. Directions NA is coming up soon, and I need to catch up on my presentations, folks. Now that I'm done with my taxes, I need to crank on 2 presentations. I will see you in Las Vegas, April 7th through 9th. I'll be arriving on Sunday morning for the Continia partner event or something, all-day event on Sunday for Continia to hear about their product. And then the conference, I think, is 7th through 9th in Las Vegas, Nevada. Directionsna.com. Excuse me. April 24th and 25th in Hamburg, Germany, ColorCloud.rocks conference. DynamicsCon is May 13th through 16th in Chicago. I will see you there. DynamicsCon.com, and there are discount codes floating around if you need one. Search Twitter or hit me up. Dynamics Minds, May 26th through 28th in Slovenia, dynamicsminds.com. So busy 2 months coming up, April and May. And I got yet another one of these things. So am I the only one on iOS? Are you guys seeing these on iOS? I am now getting SMS messages with what appear to be active URL phishing links. So I don't know what Professor Matt Lawton or AI technology thing they're talking about here, but this looks like a Microsoft email spam. Hey, missed opportunity, Microsoft. You could send out smishing messages. And on Thursday, Jueves, approval workflow email notifications. Holy cow, what a mess. It's like 8 different pages in Business Central to configure this, and there are quirks and caveats and issues. And one of the issues we finally tracked down, and we've been bumbling around trying to figure out why we're not getting email notifications to go out. We finally found this notification. The user account which was used to submit this request does not have the right to send email on behalf of. And lo and behold, it is right there on the email account setup window in Business Central. It's a link. It says learn how to send on behalf of. We just missed it. But the kicker is I configured it, and very similar to the permissions issues I'm having with Key Vault and Power Automate, I configured send on behalf of in Microsoft 365 admin, made sure it was set. We still get the issue an hour later. So whatever is going on, the permission is not syncing or it's not working properly. It's not working immediately. So once again, we've configured it. We got to wait a day, see if it suddenly works. We're kind of baffled. It is absolutely not syncing or not taking effect immediately. Now, I have not had any issues with creating new users or assigning licenses in 365 admin. And for me, it always syncs immediately to Business Central. I've never had an issue yet, but I'm only using the demo BC licenses. My colleagues, Tanya and Alyssa, have had issues recently where it did take a day or two for the license to apparently sync over to Business Central. And it does warn you, it may take up to 72 hours, which is crazy. It's like a Pony Express transmission between internal Microsoft systems. I don't know what's going on, but just like Azure Key Vault permissions, we're having the same thing with send on behalf of email in 365 admin for the Business Central approval workflow email notification. So we're now troubleshooting that. And we are needing now to document this entire process because it's like 20 different steps, all sorts of nooks and crannies where you need to configure the workflow notifications. It's just a tedious mess, and I would never want a customer to do it. So we may just do a PTE to auto configure this stuff. It's just unpleasant. And last night, I finally got on all my tax stuff done, got all my bank recs done, got all my financials done, got all the client questionnaire done for my accountant, got everything done. Just waiting on, I think it's called a K1 for a partnership or whatever it's called, corporate tax return. Need to figure out how to do that. Kind of clueless. So Ted says, had a server that suddenly stopped connecting to the network yesterday. It's a VM. Remove the adapter, reconfigure the settings, restore from backup. Nope. Now all of a sudden it's working. Must be something in the air. And that reminds me, I have a Synology NAS. It's worked fine for years. All of a sudden, it stopped working. I couldn't connect to it. I'm like, what's going on? I changed the network cable to a different switch. It started working. I assumed the switch is bad. Okay, so I scrapped the switch, as mentioned in a previous episode, moved it over to a new switch. Couldn't connect to it again. And I'm like, what's going on? I found a dangling cable, plugged it in. It suddenly worked. But that was for a second network port. Unplug the original, it stopped working. I'm baffled. So I don't know if a port is going bad on the NAS, the Synology NAS, or what, but it was plugged in. It was working perfectly. Just suddenly that interface no longer responded. I didn't even reboot the thing. I just unplugged and plugged the network cable. It started working. So I don't know if there's just gremlins out there or what, but I'm with you, Ted. I don't know. I've kind of given up on some of these. But the delays on the Microsoft syncing internally, super frustrating and really sad to tell a customer, oh yeah, you can set all this up. Just wait 3 to 5 days and maybe it'll start working. Seriously? I don't know. BC Docker Pain, holy cow. My developer's been working on an app source app and it's working fine. He's developing, he's chugging along. All of a sudden, web service calls to an external API stop working. And he gets an error, nav HTTP client request failed, just returns a 0. And he's like, what's going on? Working yesterday, stopped working today. So he starts troubleshooting, he starts reviewing his code, he starts going through and he's like, I don't get it. Eventually I'm talking to him, he's like, okay, 3 days is way too long to be troubleshooting this. Try alternative environments. So he tries online sandbox, it works. He tries Cosmo Alpaca container, it works. I'm like, okay, it's something in your dev environment. Maybe it's the code, I don't know. So I tell him to do a stripped down prototype of just a sample web service call. And it does not work on his machine. It works in Cosmo Alpaca and it works online. He sends it over to me. I test it on my Docker server, Docker container. It works fine. So we now know it is just his machine. It is just Docker on his machine. So, okay, let's start with basics. He says, what is your Docker script? Does it have any network configuration settings? And I was like, I don't think so. But then he says, what about this? This is the DNS flag or DNS parameter on the new BC container setup script. And I totally forgot about this. I don't remember why I did this. Apparently I did have an issue. I'll have to check my Twitter feed. I am setting my DNS IP to my internal Pi-hole DNS server. So he's not as familiar with DNS, so I explain what that means and how to set a static DNS. And he's like, well, I should have a DNS setting. Like, why would this stop working? And I ask him to do ipconfig all. And do you see the potential issue? As soon as I saw this, I was like, I'll bet you that's it. I speculate that it is because his ISP and his router and his entire infrastructure supports IPv6. So you'll notice 2 of his DNS servers, I don't understand the IPv6 notation, but 2 of those DNS server entries are IPv6 notation, and strangely, they appear to be the same value. One is IPv4, and it looks like 254 to the router, which I also I wouldn't trust that either. So as soon as I saw the IPv6 addresses, I was like, yeah, so use 1.1.1.1. I believe that's Cloudflare DNS, or 8888, that's Google DNS. And sure enough, as soon as he set that DNS parameter in his Docker build script, problem went away. 3.5 or 4 days fighting this bizarre symptom of HTTP calls not working in an app in Business Central in Docker. So there you go. Like, just the stuff you need to know to figure out these problems is crazy. I do feel for newbies. I do feel for people who just want to write code who don't understand the entire network application stack and how to troubleshoot this stuff. I have spent years in IT since I was in college, 19 or 20 years old, managing the college campus computer lab, setting up networks, managing all the infrastructure. So I've got 30 years of experience doing this, fortunately. So it's just intuition kicks in at that point. But man, rough. And Summit NA roadshows, 2 in April, Washington, D.C., Toronto, Minneapolis in May, Columbus, Chicago, and Philadelphia in June. Double check the dates, make sure they are correct. I have not checked them in a couple weeks, so check it out, sign up, head to a local Summit roadshow. And today, I'm going to work on Directions NA presentations if I can stay awake. Need more coffee. I need coffee. I think I should name a live stream after that. And so got to continue to work on those. Now my taxes are done. And we are still troubleshooting some Cosmo Alpaca and Azure app permissions. My developer set it up months ago, so we're trying to add me and our other junior developer to Cosmo Alpaca. So trying to figure that out. We think we've set the permissions, but once again, they're not working. So we don't know if that's another sync issue. So I need to try that today. Anyway. And I believe it was Gerardo on Twitter, who I follow. he recently tweeted this article that BC Container Helper is being deprecated. I have heard rumors of this or mentions of this, but it is now public as of March 26. Deprecating, Microsoft will phase out the usage of BC Container Helper in ALGO for GitHub, with official support ending on October 1st, 2027. For local development on Docker, equivalent functionality will likely become available in a new PowerShell module released as part of ALGO for GitHub. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know what, I haven't used ALGO for GitHub, so I don't quite know how it works or how it spools up, how it does the build and test deploy or pipeline testing, next minor, next major, current. But hopefully they come up with a solution sooner rather than later. Yeah, if you know, hit me up. We do use BC Container Helper. I do automatic builds on my Docker server still, even though I don't do development on it. My developer still uses Docker containers, obviously, on his laptop for AL development, just because it's a little more convenient than doing online sandboxes. So anyway, yeah, that is coming down the pipe. And excellence update at the ERP Center of Excellence and ERP support team. We continue to be doing BC Learning Speedrun. So this week, Jocelyn is learning Power BI. She jumped right into it, started doing Power BI data connections with Excel sample files and visualizations. I didn't even tell her anything. She's learning it from scratch. She is jamming. She is doing visualizations, different types of graphs, data representation. She is playing with slicers, just diving in head first, doing an awesome job in preparation for the trials and tribulations of the Tanya Henderson Power BI financials, which are an entirely different can of worms, which I've warned her. So she's just doing just the walk in the park standard Power BI stuff. And soon she will be in the trenches with Power BI complex reports. And David worked on an ACH file format. This week, he's learning that process, understanding record types, fixed with spacing. That's why we did the Notepad++ ruler at the top, so he could understand that character spacing. And part of the learning we randomly did was that there's something called, it's not routing number, it's something transit ID, and it is the 9-digit routing number without the check digit. I don't recall if I've ever come across this, but in the ACH file, the banker's requesting the 8-digit routing number. I said, that's odd. They are asking for the routing number without the check digit, which is fascinating. Apparently that's a thing. So, yeah, so he had to learn about that. And Ronald is helping me with some BC Admin API use cases, while at the same time dealing with the Power Automate flow and Azure Key Vault, permissions not syncing. So we're fighting that, but we did make some progress with the documentation. So he's now becoming a BC Admin API expert, a Power Automate expert, learning about Key Vault, documentation, whole bit. So he's rounding out around those topics. And then Franklin did a quick report extension, adding a field to a check report layout. And we're trying to figure out the permissions for Cosmo, Alpaca, and DevOps and that app published application. And he is jamming on what we're calling the BC Admin API dashboard. Full build out of a full admin API or BC Admin Center dashboard within Business Central so that we do not have to go to BC Admin Center all the time. So trying to figure out how that works and how we package that up. Okay, breathe. So happy Friday. And Q&A. What are you working on? What fun are you having this week? What have you learned in Business Central? It has been an exhausting week for me, but from the YouTube algorithm grab bag, I like this YouTube channel, South Main Auto. Eric O and his wife and his cat and their shop in New York. He has some great stories, one of which just kind of reminds me of my on-prem consultants and customers who just jump to conclusions and don't bother to understand the fundamentals of what they're dealing with. And this one, it's like 7 months old, but random video. Ford dealer made the wrong call. So the Ford dealer makes this diagnosis based off 1 or 2 error codes and says, oh, you need an $800 something computer module or whatever. And, that's kind of what the very basic instructions for troubleshooting would have said. The symptoms line up and point to this, but it just doesn't make sense. There were a few things that Eric is saying, like, I don't know, something else is going on. And so he pulls out the wiring diagram to understand how the system works, because he points out if you get a bad signal from another module, it confuses the computer and says, oh, the entire computer is bad. Well, he's seen this before, so he understands this. And he goes and looks at the plug and the wires, and within 5 minutes of looking for the wire that leads to this signal that's causing the fault on the dash, he sees corrosion and a wear through the insulation, and he sees a short. He trims the wire, replaces it, heat shrinks it, seals it back up, cleans everything, plugs it back in. Sure enough, the problem goes away. No need to replace an $800 module in the car, simply because he took less than 1 hour to diagnose the problem, understand how the system worked. So just back to fundamental troubleshooting in the on-prem world, I'm just not seeing it. People do not have these skills. And now that everything is moving to SaaS, man, these customers are going to have a hard time supporting their on-prem systems. So with that, have a good weekend. Go enjoy life. Go do something fun. And I'm going to get ready for the team call with everyone in El Salvador and throughout the U.S. Cheers. Have a good one.